Thank you for checking out this video, and if you did check it out, it's because you saw that this is about the fact that Joe Bob Briggs, The Last Drive-In on Shudder, has been renewed for a second season. Anyone who clicked on this just out of curiosity and you don't know what it is, Joe Bob Briggs is a personality who's one of those kind of like late night horror hosts. He used to be on Monster Vision way back in the day doing the same thing, but now he's on Shudder, a streaming service where they can show you all sorts of much better stuff without commercials and gives you more Joe Bob content. And he just kind of goes on rants. He gives you interesting information, like behind the scenes stuff about the films, and he curates it himself. Basically, picks out awesome films, amazingly terrible films, interesting films, all sorts of stuff, but it's always horror, and that's what matters because it's in conjunction with Shudder. So I will say this. That's the end of my little recap about what Joe Bob is. Most of the people who clicked on this is because you know who Joe Bob is, you know about The Last Drive-In, and if you know about it and you don't have Shudder yet, shame on you, because it's very cheap to have, and Joe Bob alone, his show is 100% worth the monthly fee for the service, to be honest. Now, I'll tell you, it's really funny. I literally got this information, the news, like about an hour ago, and it just so happens that today is my birthday. So wonderful birthday present. Thank you, Joe Bob. Thank you, Shudder. Very much appreciate that. The other funny thing is, for some reason, when I woke up this morning, I was just like, I'm just going to pick a shirt. Just so happened, I picked this Joe Bob Briggs shirt. Last Drive-In, that I got from Fright Rags. I don't think they're available anymore because they did like a pre-order on these when they were going to be coming out. So I'm sorry, it might not be available, but they might have some. I think they might still have some of his Monster Vision ones. So just check out Fright Rags for that if you want it. So very odd that it happened to be my birthday and I just happened to wear my Joe Bob shirt today, and da-da, the news of season 2. Amazing. So for this video, I was gonna say for this episode, for this video, what I wanted to do at the end, I was to say a little bit more about whatever details I actually have about the new season coming, which is not a whole lot, but I'm gonna do 2 lists of for the Joe Bob show. One is my favorite top 5 of the movies he's shown that are kind of like lesser known films, because some of them that he did is like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Changeling, things like that that are like more known, like people know these films, the Phantasm films, stuff like that. So I didn't want to do that because those are obvious, like, great choices. So I wanted to do a top 5 of my favorite of the lesser known ones, and I'll give you reasons why. And then I'll do another top 5 list of my favorite episodes that he did because of the rants that he goes on during those, or the information that he gives during the course of the movie. So I'll give you those at the very end. But first, real quick, I did get the press release from Shudder on this. And actually, first I had just seen the video because Joe Bob released a video online. I saw it through Facebook. And people go ahead and look for it because it's a pretty funny video of him revealing in a entertaining way that they're doing a season 2. So go and look for that. It's a good time. So basically, they sent me the announcement through Shudder because I'm signed up for all the press releases. They're doing a season 2, but there's no date set yet because I'm assuming this deal had just basically been done fairly recently. So yeah, and just so people know, the final episode of the current season 1, is this Friday. So the 24th, I believe. Yes, 24th. This Friday, the 24th. Okay, so here are some quotes that are key from the press release. This is from Craig Engler, who's the Shudder general manager. He says, "From our first marathon and subsequent specials in 2018 through this year's series, Shudder members have been loud and clear. We can never have too much Joe Bob." That's true. I've been one of those people kind of saying that. "We have read every tweet, every email, and every Facebook comment crying out for more. Message received, Joe Bob will be back." And then there's a quote from Joe Bob Briggs, which I thought was a really appropriate one for me to read for this. He says, "It hasn't even been a full year since the 24-hour Last Drive-In marathon, but since then I've made thousands of new friends and reconnected with thousands of old ones. The main reason I'm coming back to do another season is that this community of horror fans is greater than the sum of its parts, and it's about something larger than horror. Don't ask me what that thing is, but it's a source of great joy to me." Well, Joe Bob, you're a source of great joy for us hardcore horror fans who not only appreciate all the information you give us, all the funny rants you go on, the fun movies that you bring us, but just these gems. And in general, a outlet for all of us to enjoy at the same time. Because if people don't know the show, it's a double feature every Friday night for the duration of the season. And they air them at a certain time. So they're kind of like aired on their like actual Shudder TV. So I think it's just the premium version though. There's a Shudder TV and there's Shudder TV Premium. So I think it's only the premium that does it. But they air it live so that everyone can tweet with it at the same time and interact with each other and have fun conversation. And I participated in some of that tweeting. And there's a lot of funny stuff that comes up, a lot of fun stuff, a lot of informational stuff. And it's just fun to kind of connect with other horror fans while the show's going on. So it's cool. And it is like a communal experience, which was kind of their whole point of doing the show. So I'm excited about this. So that's enough of that information. Now I'm going to give you my top 5 lists that I was telling you about. So my first list, I'll do my favorite, best lesser known films that Joe Bob Briggs has done. And that's not just for the current Last Drive-In series that he was doing, but that's also including the Christmas marathon he did, the Thanksgiving marathon he did, and the one he did, it was either like last July or August, that was just like his 48-hour or 24-hour marathon of just a bunch of films. So that's pulling from all that. So my number 5 is the film Tourist Trap. That film was nuts. I had never seen it before. Totally nuts. Totally a nutso thing. Basically about some college kids who end up stopping at a tourist trap on their way somewhere. I forget even where they were going. And this guy has like these weird mannequins, and then people end up getting killed, and it's crazy. But you don't really know where it's going to go because it's pretty out there, but it's a lot of fun. My number 4 is also crazy, is the film Society. Now, I had seen this film before, but this is one of those has to be seen to be believed films. It is out there, and the ending is insane. It's a very 80s feeling film. It's very campy. It kind of has a little bit of like a Breakfast Club vibe to it too, which is really weird. But trust me, you're going to want to see that one. My number 3 is Basket Case. Also a film I've seen before, but man, I love Basket Case. It is one of those films that is just so terribly acted and so weird and out there that it's just unbelievably enjoyable. Are you seeing a theme with the ones I've picked here? Yeah, that's the theme. Basket Case, basically about a guy who... Oh, I didn't tell you what Society was about. Society is just about a kid who's living in Beverly Hills, and he doesn't feel like he's really a part of his family, and it seems like there's something weird going on just under the surface of all these very rich people. So sorry, back to Basket Case. Basket Case synopsis is about Siamese twins who were separated when they were about 12 years old, but they had a telepathic link, and they're back together when they're older, and they're going out to seek revenge on everyone who was involved in them being separated. And obviously one of the Siamese twins is not normal looking, to say the least. He's basically like this blob, but it is nuts. It's nuts. The acting is bad, but enjoyably bad. Gotta check that out. My number 2 is the Larry Cohen film The Stuff, which Joe Bob Briggs just did this past Friday. That's also a movie I've seen before, and I really, really like. It is, I mean... To most people, it's not a good film. This is another one of those ones where it's kind of like bad, but it's awesome bad. But it's weird because it's this mixture of like horror to it, but it's also kind of like mystery and thriller at the same time. It's one of these films that the premise keeps you engaged because you want to know what's going on. You want to see where the story's going, but it's so like funny. Like the dialogue's ridiculous and the twists it takes are ridiculous. But it's like an enjoyable, fun, ridiculous. So it's a great time. So that's why it's my number 2. And the number 1 that he's done, and I think I partially put it as number 1 because I hadn't ever seen it before, and it blew my mind seeing it the first time, is a film called Demon Wind. And this film is everything, including the kitchen sink, as far as horror goes. This literally is one of the craziest horror films I've seen in a long time. Because you never know what's going to go on. every single well, I won't say every single second, but at least every bunch of minutes, it seems like something's coming out of left field, and you're just like, why'd they do this? Why'd they do that? Why they, like, you just keep having that feeling throughout the entire film, and it is nuts. And it's terribly acted, and the effects are fun, though. The special effects are actually not bad, but it is just like out there and nuts and ridiculous. And that one is by far my favorite one. It was my favorite experience with Joe Bob doing his show. So big thank you to Joe Bob for introducing me to Demon Wind. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be watching that a few more times, I will tell you that. Okay, so let me go to my last list, second and last list. My favorite episodes or favorite movies because of his rants. And I'll tell you roughly just a little bit about what the rants were about. So my number 5 was the film Chud. This one, that's the one about like the subterranean creatures who are from, born out of homeless people. They're kind of like changed by radioactive material, basically. But the rants in that I really liked because they were mainly Joe Bob just being kind of miffed as to why he had to do this film, because this wasn't one he really picked. It's the one that the Shudder folks were like, look, this film has been requested so many times, you got to do this. So he did it. So it's kind of like, you could tell through the whole thing, he's kind of like begrudgingly doing it. And he just kind of like slams the film repeatedly. And there's a really great quote where he's just like, where's the chud? And like, I just keep saying that around the house, to be honest. My wife is actually very sick of me saying, where's the chud? So, yeah, I love those rants of him just being like, why do people like this? It's ridiculous. So that's my number 5. My number 4 was his rant on The Changeling. Now, there was a main rant on this that I really picked up on that I loved, is how he was going off about the fact that people say that The Changeling is so different because it's better than any other horror because it's like highbrow horror, And we've seen that sort of stuff in the horror community with films like most recently something like Pet Sematary, where people were trying to say it's elevated horror is what people were saying. It's somehow so intellectual that it's not quite horror, it's better than that. So he goes on a rant about people who say that there's that kind of level of horror. So I just thought that was really funny. So that's my number 4. My number 3 was his rant for Street Trash. And it's mainly for his rant in the beginning of that, where he talks about the Joe Bob health regimen that he does, which is basically a way of making fun of all these weird kind of new age techniques and ideas that people have about what you should be putting on your body, and doing yoga and meditation, like all these types of things. So it's his version of a health routine that's obviously satirical and very, very funny, and it goes on for quite a while. So I really love that one. That's why that's my number 3. My number 2 is Phantasm 3. So when he did his run through of the Phantasm films for Thanksgiving, not for Thanksgiving, for Christmas is when he did it, for his Christmas special. He did Phantasm 1, 3, 4, and 5. He skipped 2. And so at the beginning of Phantasm 3, he did a rant about why he didn't do Phantasm 2. And it came down to the fact that he hated the fact that they destroyed a hemicuda in the making of that film. And he considers that to be, in his quote, just pornography. So that rant is unbelievably hilarious, unbelievably ridiculous, and amazing and funny. So you got to check that one out. That is my number 2. But my number 1, and I've heard this from other people online, that this is like one of their favorites of his rants, was for the film The Prowler. And that was during his 24-hour marathon that he did summer of last year. I don't think it's available on Shudder anymore, and I assume that's because of licensing issues, where you can really only have it up for a certain amount of time, because that's whatever you've negotiated paying them for the licensing. So I think, at least for me, I couldn't find it. It's gone, but I remember it being there. I remember watching it and being blown away by his rant. I just want that rant somewhere on the internet. But that rant was so amazing. It was about people being on their cell phones all the time, while they're watching movies, while they're driving, while they're just walking around. And he just goes off about the fact that people are fiddling with their phones, as he says it. I have used a lot of quotes from that rant around my house to tell my wife, quit fiddling with your phone, and she is also sick of that at this point. So that one was amazing. That one is my favorite. So there you have it. Those are my 2 top 5s. I did this as an homage to Joe Bob, to The Last Drive-In, to Shudder, and thank you to them for giving us the season 2, which I'm very excited about. But hey, let's focus on the season finale of season 1 first, which is this Friday. If you don't have Shudder yet and you're thinking about it, it's not too late. You can get it right now, and you'll be able to see the season finale and then gear up for season 2. Plus, they have available streaming, since it's a streaming service. You can find a bunch of the old ones. There's a lot on there. Some of them have been taken off, like I've said, but there's still a lot still on there. So go check it out. Thank you, everyone, for checking this out. And until next time, keep it brutal.